Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic/Non-Classic. This is episode number 543 and Doubleshot number 449. Two SpiderMan trades, one of whom happens to be the last one released to collect issues from this particular series when it was brought back a few years ago. First up, it's Amazing Spider-Man Worldwide Volume 7, which I believe this is going to be the second to last trade because after this one, basically, it's like the Venom Inc. storyline, and then it's whatever that probably is gonna be like the last trade to collect issues from Dan Slott's run. So there's only gonna be about two more trades left for Dan Slott's run, but this is something else. Okay, now the issues are collected in here is Amazing Spider-Man Volume 4, issues 29 and 32, which the final issue of those volume, and this is, of course, when they revert back to a triple-digit numbering, 789 to 791. Now, 29 and 31 is the Secret Empire tie-in. And at the rereading it, this was a very good tie-in. Despite the fact, I should also point out, though, what happened in these three issues. This is actually the cause of what causes the first storyline of the triple-digit number, which I'll get to in a minute. What happens in the storyline? It's Spider-Man versus Dr. Octopus and Tivia's favorite thing about this whole entire storyline, the fall of Parker Industries. After it's been in the comics at this point in time for at least 4 years. Yeah, 4 years has been part of Spider-Man comics, and it's gone. Completely gone. And yeah, apparently China has got no problem. They actually understand the good reason why Parker Industries is shut down. And then the Daily Bugle published an article. Of course, this came like right after that. I'll talk about issue 32 in a minute. Of course, that leads into what's going on right now in the book. Yeah, it's just basically, and yeah, that's actually an article that was actually published by the Bugle in the actual story itself, where Peter Parker became a very despised figure in the United States. Despite the fact in China, basically, it's understandable the reason why he shut the company down is so it wouldn't fall into the hands of Dr. Octopus, because he really wanted the company. And one of my favorite lines of this whole entire story is they bring back Peter's girlfriend that he had during the Mr. Negative story, which I think for a lot of people, like, really? Peter had a girlfriend? Okay, that's something new. No one knew he had a girlfriend. And it's basically her mother is like, and he's talking to May. Aunt May's like, yeah, my daughter is helping Spider-Man fight the great American supervillain Dr. Octopus. Which, by the way, this is what he looks like in this storyline. Well, it's a good thing he's on the cover. Oh, and by the way, Alex Ross does all these covers. He still does the covers as far as I know. But yeah, Hydra gave him this costume. Excuse me, I should also point out, though, who the writers are. Slott writes all the issues. Now, Christos Gage does not co-write all the issues. That's some of them. Christos Gage only co-writes 29, 30, and 790, which is interesting, the fact he did that, with Stuart Immonen on the artwork for 29, 31, and 79 to 791. So pretty much, yeah, he does all the issues except for issue 32, which is done by Greg Smallwood. Now, for the tie-ins for Secret Empire, a lot of them, now, Secret Empire suffers the same problem that a few other crossovers have had, where the tie-ins are actually better than the actual main series. Because if you read the Secret Empire tie-in, it kind of loosely feels like a good tie-in, but it basically leads into one of my biggest problems with Secret Empire, the lack of involvement of Spider-Man. Yeah, where basically he's out of the country for no reason, and I think Slott just did this whole 3-part story. And this is just my personal theory, because he was probably forced to by Nick Spencer, because either it was that, or basically fans can complain to you, have Spider-Man do something in this crossover. Come on, Slott. Because in the last crossover, with the exception of his tie-in miniseries, Spider-Man no-showed Civil War 2. I'm not kidding. He did. He no-showed it. Because if you read the entire Civil War 2 series, despite the fact, yes, he does pop up on the covers for the first few issues, as the main series itself, Spider-Man is completely absent. Now I'm talking about this Spider-Man, not Miles. Miles is in Civil War 2, and he's in Secret Empire as well. He does very little in it. But as for Peter, oh, God forbid he shows up in that story. I mean, one of the things I wanted to see him do was beat the crap out of Hydra Cap. Of Captain Hydra. I wanted to see him do that. Instead, we have the so-called real Steve Rogers, and he beats the crap out of him in the finale. Oh, and what happens to Dr. Octopus? Oh, he gets away. And Parker Industries is no more. Oh, and this was actually leaked a few months ago when this cover was listed. Yeah, this is basically a thing. Spider-Man and Mockingbird as a couple. And I should point out, though, this relationship did not last too long because apparently in the newest issue that came out just this week, they had it where it looked like that Peter and Mary Jane were going to have sex, and they had to stop because Peter was wearing a Spider-Man costume. And apparently that's the reason why they can't have sex, because he's wearing a Spider-Man costume. Seriously, I think Slott just did it as a tease. But I'll get a chance to fully review that storyline when that trade comes out. As for this is good. As for issue 32, 32 is the return of Norman Osborn, even though he was just featured just prior to Secret Empire tie-in. I mean, it's only been, at this point, when this issue came out, only been 4 issues. It has not been that long, and he's featured again. So bizarre. He goes to a monastery, gets some power, and it's like, oh, you can't find your answers here, so go away. Yeah. A completely pointless issue. That's really the whole point of issue 32, is that it's completely pointless. The only thing that's good about it is that you see a return of Norman Osborn and fantastic artwork. Now, a lot of people might agree with me on this, is that Slott has no idea how to write Norman Osborn at all. It seems like the only people who know how to write Osborn in the last, since I was reading comic books, is Bendis. He's practically the only person who made Osborn interesting. Lately, he's been okay, but in this, he's not that good. Especially in the last story when he was awful. Like, really, really bad. But despite that, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. The Secret Empire time was awesome. As for what happened afterwards, yeah, I do agree with Peter that they should have gave it more than just one side of the story. Though, at the end of it, it does set up pretty much a new status quo for him, where he's working with the other people, not as a photographer, but as the editor of the Science magazine, which is something he should have been given a long time ago. Though Tibia wanted him to go back to kind of something like this better. Though I've already given my opinion on Nick Spencer taking over the writing duties of Spider-Man. Next up is a good book. Spider-Man 2099, Back to the Future, Shock. And this is Volume 7. The final volume that collects the revived Spider-Man 2099 series. So, combined with the first volume. Yeah, combined with the first volume, which was brought back in the previous volume, 2014. In the course of, I think it was a little over 3 years, they only published 37 issues. This book publishes the last 4 issues of the series. Yes. This is written by Peter David, Will Seeley, who does the artwork, and, well, her name is on here as well. Rochelle Rosenberg is the colorist. They also throw in here, and this is a bit of a surprise, they throw in here the one shot where Spider-Man 29 meets Spider-Man. And, believe it or not, that's also done by Peter David. Not kidding, it is. Simply put, this pretty much wraps up the series, where Spider-Man 2099 prevents the devastating future that was what happened in 2099, and he goes back to his own time with Captain America 2099. Oh yeah, and it's also revealed that Tempest, his girlfriend who was pregnant, yeah, apparently she had a son, who she decided to name after Miguel's brother Gabriel. Okay. Oh yeah, and apparently he's also Spider-Man as well, probably because he inherited his father's powers, and he's from the year 2116. which last time I checked, there was also a Spider-Man that particular year. But he's dead. Peter David killed him off in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I'm not kidding. Take a look at that series. He gets killed off by an alternate version of Ben Parker. No, I'm not joking about that. And this is simply the end of this really awesome series. Though, when this series was ending, guess which series was started around the same time this series was ending? Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider. Yep. Also, one thing that really kind of bothered me about this particular series is that you have Silk. You have Silk and Prowler tied into what happened in the pages of Clone Conspiracy, but yet this book and Miles Morales had no tie-ins to it at all. I would have thought it's a Spider-Man event. Have these two books tie into it. At least this book tied into Spider-Verse. But as for Clone Conspiracy, I don't think Peter didn't want anything to do with Clone Conspiracy at all. Because, well, you have time travel stuff. But as for the title, Back to the Future, that is, well, obviously reference to film. Shock is simply just a slang word that was I think Peter David was the one who actually created that phrase that popped up in a lot of the 29 books from the 90s, because a lot of the characters say the word shock, but Miguel says a lot. As for what it means nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Uh-huh.
And there's nothing really wrong with this. Oh yeah, and I also mentioned though that when this 29 issue came out with Spider-Man 20 Meets Spider-Man, yeah, apparently they wrote in here, apparently Peter Parker doesn't exist because, well, there kind of is a reason for that, because I think at the period of time this one-shot came out, that was when they revealed this stupid relation that Peter Parker was a clone and Ben Reilly is the original. Though that was revealed to be completely untrue by the end of the storyline in the 4-part Revelations. This was a great storyline and a great series. It's sad to see this series go. Combined, if you look at basically all 3 volumes, it published, like, let's see, 46 was 12, that's 58 plus, 25, that's, let's see, 20, that is 78 plus 5. So, over the course of, with these combined 3 numbering, this series put out 83 issues. Yes, a combined number of 83 issues. If this series lasts a little bit longer, I wouldn't mind seeing this part of Marvel Legacy. Yeah, I personally wouldn't mind it at all. But as for why this series had to end, I have honestly no idea why it ended for. My theory? Low sales. Yeah, when this series ended last year, yeah, and this was a big, humongous problem with Marvel whenever they ended their titles. They just abruptly ended without any notification. Oh yeah, this title is getting canceled. At least by the end of last year, they actually about to fix that problem. Like let people know that series are getting canceled. When this series ended last year, it's like, oh, that's it? It's over? Okay. It's like basically a lot of people were. I'm shocked a lot of people didn't like. I'm sure Peter David had a reason for ending the series, though. I think another reason why he ended the series, because, well, even though he just started Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider, I think it's because of his health. Yes, that's my theory. The reason why that he probably ended the series, because he didn't want too much on his plate, even though he only had like 2 books, which to me, basically, for a writer like him, shouldn't be a big problem. Look at Scholl. Scholl does like 4 books at Marvel. Bendis is going to be doing 2 at DC. Lemire is doing he's going to be doing Century, which I'll get to that in an opinion video. Excuse me. What do I give this particular book? I'm giving this book a 10 out of 10. Great storyline and a great series. Just too bad the series had to end. I kind of wish it would lasted a little bit longer than it did. I mean, I'm sure Peter David probably wanted to tell more story, but it probably got cut off due to low sales. That's just my theory anyways. I would have bought the series if I had enough money. Yeah, this is actually one of those titles I really wanted to buy, but I couldn't afford it. That's just the problem. And of course, another reason why people have a problem with buying Marvel titles is because there's too many on the shelves. Like, I've heard that apparently some titles just don't really sell because either the people are not interested, or, and the most popular reason why, the price tag is too high. But in the case of this series, I don't think the price tag was that high. No, it wasn't. I mean, they only sold this series, I think it was like for $3.99, which I guess that's not too bad. At least they weren't charging $10 an issue, which was stupid. Which would be stupid, though. Amazing Summer 800 is going to cost that much. Not kidding. If you look it up, it's completely true. My friend Edgar told me about it. Like, really? And I'm like, really? They're going to cost that much for it? I mean, yeah, it's 800 issue for the series, but it doesn't need to cost $10. When Thor 700 came out last year, you know how much that cost? $6. 6 is perfectly fine. 10 is way too much. You know what's going to happen? Not enough people buying it. That's going to be a problem. But yeah, 10 out of 10 for this. Really wish the series was still around. Alright, so that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode, where it's going to be episode number 544 and Doubleshot number 450. We'll talk about one Spider-Man trade and one X-Men trade. You'll find out what they are in the next episode, okay? Until you see the next episode. Bye.